All right, everybody. Before we get started and introduce our guest of honor, I just wanted to go over a couple of quick rules because we are actually having our session only online today. We're in the outskirts of Washington, D.C. at the end of January 2026, and we've just had quite a bit of snow. And so many of us around here are snowed in. And for safety reasons, we decided to just do everything online. Our speaker was going to be virtual anyway, but often we have members come in person and we do a hybrid. But today, everything is online. So I just want to go over some ground rules. Our speaker is going to speak for about an hour and a half, possibly, and then she's going to open it up to Q&A. We would really encourage you to ask questions because this is your opportunity. If you want to ask questions, you can do it one of two ways. Remember, everything is online today, and we are actually recording this event to broadcast on our Irons Nova YouTube channel at some point in the future. So if you aren't shy and don't worry about, concerned about showing up on camera and would like to ask a question in real time, please go ahead and raise your hand and we will get to you. If, on the other hand, you would rather ask a question, you write a question down, you can do it through the chat and we will get to those questions. I would ask, though, if you do use chat, to keep your keep your questions pretty short and to the point, and also keep your comments as short as possible, because when we have so many people asking questions, for those of us trying to field the questions, it can get a little bit unwieldy. We're doing several things at a time. So now, without further ado, I would like to invite and introduce our wonderful speaker, Melissa Mullen, today. It is an absolute great pleasure. And I heard the title of her talk is The Way of Light, A Journey to Divine Service. Melissa is going to describe a spiritual journey that began when she had an NDE at the age of 7. And she's going to be telling us about her experience and her life since then, culminating in a life of service. She's a healer, she's a teacher, she's a light worker, she's a Reiki healer as well. She's many, many things. And so without further ado, let me just hand it over to our speaker. Melissa, welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you so much. Lovely introduction. And welcome to everyone here. I hope that I am good at answering any questions you may have, but I'll just say that if I don't answer you thoroughly or you have follow-on questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. My contact information will be shared in my presentation. So before we really get into it, I'd like to take the opportunity to bring in the energy that I first encountered on the other side when I was a little girl, and that I didn't understand. I didn't understand fully until I got well into my being a mother, and in later life, when I really deepened into learning Reiki. And I'd like to bring that in for everyone now. So if you don't mind, take a few slow, easy breaths and just let yourself relax wherever you happen to be. Let yourself feel warm and feel the breath in your body. And this energy that I encountered on the other side is unconditional love. It's what is inside all of us. And so as you relax, letting your body and your mind relax, breathe into your heart. And feel space. Feel the space in your lungs, behind your heart, up into your throat, in all of your sinuses, and just all around you. And send your whole self some love and receive the peace and the love. of the creator of vessel. And may you all find some inspiration and peace, even if just for a moment, in what I have to share. And this talk is dedicated to the Most High Creator, the brothers and the sisters of the light, and the whole human family, all who dwell on earth. Okay, so with that, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to take you through this story, and I hope that you like it. Here we go. All right. Okay, good. All right. As Angie said, this talk is called The Way of Light. Um, Many of you have heard of the way or the ways, and this is just my way. It's a pathless path, but I hope that me sharing about my experiences will help everyone to realize that there is a journey for us all. Okay. Here we go. So, what this story is about is starting with my NDE. I was about 7.5 years old. And this story, I continued to unfold as I was growing up. Accelerated for me when I found Reiki, which is a form of energy healing. And it continuously is enhanced every moment by everything I do that is sacred, all my work, adventuring around the world, and so on. So, um, what I hope you understand and take away from this is that anyone can awaken to the presence of divine love and choose to transform their life. Many are called, all are called, few choose. It is your choice. It's a pathless path. There are limitless ways open to each of us according to our unique frequencies of light and sound as expressed through the temple of our bodies in this great journey that is life on earth. There's 7 chapters to this story, and the first one is a little rough to hear, and it was rough to remember it fully and bring it forward into this talk. But it's okay. You know, you move past the hard part and carry forward in gratitude what you've learned and what you bring with you. So there is some sensitive content related to childhood trauma. And I just want you to know that everyone here is being held in the loving, healing light. So please to stay with it, because what I want you to hear overall is that so much grace is afforded during an NDE, and it becomes a beautiful story very quickly. And I hope that it gives you courage, recognition, and a little lamp to help you find your way. Thank you for being here with me. So, my experience, because I was 7.5, and there's no medical documentation, nothing like that. But I do have some evidence and some things that I found much later in life when I was 55, as a matter of fact, that, helped me to provide some documentation, if you will. And you'll see that as we move through. But let me take you all the way back to August of 1969 in a little town right on Lake Niagara, very close to Fort Niagara, in New York State. my journey started. I'm a little girl growing up in a dysfunctional home, a child who was given the gift of an encounter with the divine, a child who made a choice to return to earth and help, alongside a presence which has guided and protected me since then. From that night of my divine intervention, this indwelling guide has accompanied me even during my unconscious years. And those years were interspersed with signs from the universe and guiding lights in the form of teachers, synchronicities, and interventions. There were enough of these to keep a wounded girl from giving up in the darkness of intense personal suffering. I'm going to take you back and bring you into the remembrance of that experience. I will tell you that it was unclear if I was intentionally suffocated as a part of that experience or if I myself buried myself in order to hide. So, what I can tell you that for sure is that I experienced another dimension, a very traumatic event, and then my soul being in a place of pure love, a place many of you may also have experienced during your own NDEs, and then rough return to this plane of existence. So imagine it's August of 1969. I awake in the middle of the night to ice on the inside of my windows, darkness, and thick, visceral fear. I try to get back to sleep, in my imagination appealing to Jack Frost, who is painting the inside of my windows, asking him to take me skating away from the house that I dwell in, to take me away from here. There are odd noises, weird shadows, and I am very scared. The desperate need to release all that adrenaline forces me up and down the hall to the bathroom despite that fear. Leaving my bedroom in the upstairs corner of my family's old farmhouse, I find myself someplace other. There is a red and black miasma, thick and choking like smoke from a fire. Walls and floors a kilter like a scene from Alice in Wonderland. Freezing, I struggle to fight my way to the bathroom. Stumbling in, I pull the chain for the light and go to shut the connecting door to my sister's room. I hear a stifled sob and an angry hiss. I peer through the tiny crack between the door and its jamb and see a tableau of pure evil. I recognize the source. It is emanating from my father. Here was the center of the red and the smoke and the darkness and the freezing terror. Everything spins. I am violently ill. It would not be until much later on in life that I understood what happened next. I had an out-of-body experience, one that would impact and continues to impact my entire life. After being sick, there were no conscious memories until I awoke, struggling to breathe and emerge from behind my bed where I had lay buried in a large pile of stuffed animals, shoved up between the bed and the wall of my room. When I could breathe, I sat shaking and cold in the blinding sunlight streaming through my August window, heart pounding and visions of another world filling my mind. As I leaned against my little wooden toy box, Somehow the terror of the night before was supplanted by a trip to the other world. In that place, I was walking through a peaceful, light-filled meadow, children and animals running through the wildflowers, a grove of trees, and the fresh scent of a clear stream running over stone. I sat at the knee of an ascended master, reading to us all, sat on a boulder, white-robed, long-haired, teaching us with words that brought joy. How I loved him, how he loved us all. After a time, he closed his book and, laughing, told us all to go and play. As I stood to run off with the others, he extended his hand to hold my arm, asking me to wait and walk with him a while. When he touched me, I grew until I was looking into his face, eye to eye, adult-sized, his equal. My perspective shifted, and I recognized him as my beloved companion, welcomed the opportunity to spend time together. We glanced back over the others playing in the meadow, and smiling at the beauty of all things, turned onto a path that led to the woods and into an area where we would not be observed. The tranquility of nature arose all round us, and I was completely at ease. Time ceased to exist. The two of us traversed over endlessly changing landscapes, sea to mountain, sunrise to sunset, loving the sweetness of earth. He turned to me wordlessly, communicating, "I have something to ask you." Laughing, I conveyed that I would always say yes to anything he asked, but he stopped me, as I should not answer in haste. It was important. He would needed me to go back. Surprised, I responded with dismay, "Back there?" And he responded, "Yes, but you do not have to go. I need your help, but there is no penalty if you choose not. You can stay here eternally." I looked at him dubiously. "You need my help?" He was firm. "It's important, but it will not change anything for you if you choose to stay here." He looked at me with infinite love. My heart surged, and I said, "Yes, of course, as you ask it, if I can be of help." Again, he cautioned me, "It will not be easy." And I paused to consider communicating my concern. "I will not remember this or how to help when I go back there." To this he promised, "You will when the time comes." And so I said yes a third time. Returning from the other side, I awoke to a deep, gut-wrenching grief and a fierce desire to return to him. I cried until my tears were wrung, but I could not sleep again, and I did not go back. And so I breathed in the air and the bright sunlight streaming through my window, noticing my hair, face, and front of my nightgown were soiled with vomit and tears. A voice that seemed to come from both within and all around me told me to change my clothes, wash my face, hands, and teeth, comb my hair, and proceed to the kitchen as normal for breakfast. There's nothing else to do. So I went downstairs where I encountered my family, seated in what seemed an eerie silence around the kitchen table. My father lowered the newspaper and stared at me silently. "What's wrong?" I asked, as arch as a teenager. He answered anxiously, "Nothing. I'm just surprised to see you. That's all." We stared at each other for a long time. Looking back, I realized that my father saw not his helpless youngest daughter, but she who now walked within me. looking straight at him through my eyes. I did not return alone from that place, you see. My father hid behind his newspaper and said no more. Years later, as these memories began to surface, I verified the truths that underlay the sorrow in my family, including witnesses, court records, and another sister, 7 years younger than I. Through the miracle of unconditional love and the modality of Reiki, the wounds of the past are released and no longer hold power over the survivors. We are all whole, each of us having faced death. So may it be for all innocents who have been born into such experiences. This little card is just a piece of cardboard that a little girl ripped from the back of a pink while you were out phone notepad, and felt compelled to document something from that experience. And my mom found it a few months later, when my entire childhood and family were ripped apart and we had to move away from our farm. And she documented there at the bottom, you can see her writing. And she kept that. She kept that all my life. And I found it when she passed. Now, I will tell you how my indwelling guide helped me, healed me, bringing me away from fear, separated me from my family and apart from most other people, and aligned me at last to my path. She is a scholar, a lover of nature, a force majeure, and a sacred vessel for the light. Even when I was unconscious to her presence, she was with me. Have you ever sought the solace of trees? Walked barefoot along a stream with the scent of pine releasing with each footstep under sweet green boughs? Lost yourself in a book as you lay back against a sturdy oak in the shade? Climbed so high in a broad willow tree that no one could find you and you could see for miles around, as though you had lived within a forest in a past life? Have you ever buried your tear-stained face in the ruff of a dog's neck or a horse's mane while he pressed his heart to yours and simply stayed until you could breathe again? Caught a fish and carried him in a bucket all around so you could sing to him while you did your chores? All these things comforted me. I precociously demanded books to learn culture, history, geography, the constellations, scientific discoveries, space and moon rockets, the current events of nations. I left innocence behind and engaged wholeheartedly with the world, hungry for experience. This intellectual curiosity saved me, while my family, my childhood, my home, my friends, my school, everything was lost in the aftermath of that experience. I am grateful for this divine intervention, for she who has carried me all my life since that night when I passed through the weave of space-time and fused with her in the light realm. It is through spirit that all souls are called, some of us choosing, as I did, to help. But what I said on the other side, that I would not remember, turned out to be true. Many experts talk about the amnesia that comes when we return from our soul's eternal home to the incarnate plane, and it was no different for me. between that traumatic night and my first Reiki healing in March of 2016, I was a very restless and sorrowful soul. But there was something in me that always knew that my life was not what it should be, that something was missing, that I was biding my time while I was married and having my beautiful children and working hard to provide for my own security. When I was 10, my mother abandoned us and gave my nearest and fourth order sister and I to our father, the genesis of the trauma, and his new wife to raise. When I was 18, they told me to leave home and make my own way. I did not understand myself, the world, or my family, and I was in a great deal of pain. I drank and smoked and danced and gave myself into the oblivion of risky behaviors and the fleeting hope of human love with other wounded souls. I was flailing, trying to find a rock to cling to, unconscious to my guide, who saved my life anyway by showing me so many things, among those being that a choice for death would mean 10,000 more lifetimes of suffering. There were times when strangers helped me, and times when people who were targeting me as a mark would abandon their attempts to rob, rape, or harm me. It was as though I had some shield of innocence and truth around me that they could not bring themselves to disregard. A few of them succeeded, but I had the invisible hand of Myriam to guide me, my indwelling guide's knowing voice in my head, and helpers who showed up as lamp bearers along my way. And so I persevered. I worked and studied and found the lamps, lighting a path with literature and history, ideas, and communities of people at school or work who respected me for my mind and did not seek to exploit me. It has always been the teachers for me, life upon life. At length, though, I was exhausted, my soul striving to become apparent to my conscious mind. Strung out on anxiety and surviving, striving to be enough for my husband, my children, my employer. I knew, as I always had, that life was meant to be more. Didn't everyone understand love the way that I did? These types of events, the synchronicities, the help, those little lamps, it helped me to reason that I must be here for a purpose. And, even just having time slow down, and when I was just barely made it through a 6-car pileup at the convergence of several highways one day after work, when I was driving home from Washington, D.C. to Frederick, about an hour and a half of extremely trafficy driving, just so I could pick up my infant son and his older sister. And, after a 12-hour day, switch over from work mode to mom mode, right? I felt I felt time slow. I saw everything unfolding. I was able to avoid, and I knew in that moment and many other such moments that an angelic hand had saved me. When my son was about 2, I encountered the Reiki energy for the first time. It was through a friend, another mom from his daycare, who was in massage school, and she wanted to practice. So when she was practicing her massage training on me, I felt the Reiki energy, and I knew it. I recognized it. And I asked her, "What is that?" And she said, "Oh, you can feel that. That's Reiki." And I was like, "Wow," but I mean, I was in a federal government career. Uh, I was scheduled in 15-minute increments to make it through every day. I didn't have time to pursue it. I didn't forget it. And it's important because when people are kind, like my friend, and give to others, teaching and listening, these folks are taking part in the dance of the divine into this earthly realm. All of us are in this together. Somehow, through that little encounter with the light with Reiki, I began to hope that things could change. And in 2007, I left my marriage, establishing a new home for myself and my children, one of peace and love. I grew strong in my body and successful in my career. I read voraciously in search of answers. I did not yet understand how to go within. The next time I encountered Reiki, I was 54 years old, divorced, crippled by arthritis, and yet still hopeful and full of love, determined to live as freely and authentically as possible. Seeking alternative therapies, I found myself encountering that healing energy again at the hands of a skilled stretch therapist who also happened to be a Reiki master. Through her, I met my primary teacher, Harriet Shager, and enrolled immediately in her classes and started healing sessions. I knew her. I've known her over many lifetimes. Reiki is divine love flowed through the practiced art of serving as conduit. It is intuitive and powerful, and it works. Within a year, I had forgiven both my father and my mother, left behind an unsupportive 7-year relationship, and taken the pivotal step of becoming a Reiki master. When I received the master attunement in March 2017, I released much of the detritus of this lifetime, which allowed me to better love myself and others. I even sent my mother a letter of forgiveness for her abandonment of me. The attunements I received during Reiki training, the healing sessions, these were portals to that place of unconditional love, safety, and truth that I remembered as through a glass darkly. I was initiated into the mysteries, and over time, into the other world, a spontaneous event that would happen when I was receiving Reiki and in Reiki meditation states of consciousness. Today, while accessing these other planes of existence is a daily event for me, it is no less profound and humbling. At the Mid-Atlantic Reiki Conference in fall of 2016, I connected with Raven Keyes, who was teaching medical Reiki and hosting a retreat in Glastonbury, England, beginning in May of 2017. After achieving Reiki Master and turning 55, I decided to follow my heart, and, head full of visions that I was just beginning to understand, set off across the Atlantic. Ah, England's sacred landscape. It was a journey through lifetimes and home to myself. Arriving in Glastonbury, I was fertile ground for the magic that is resident in the green place that is acclaimed as the heart chakra of the earth. First day, touring the ancient abbey grounds, I prayed in the Magdalen Chapel for the strength to create my vision of becoming a full-time Reiki practitioner and master teacher. As I gazed into a candle flame, a voice within asked me if this was truly my desire, this path. I wholeheartedly answered yes. And then the voice became more focused, saying, "It is not an easy path, and you have much work to do. Are you sure?" Again, I answered yes. And then, after a wave of loving emotion, as on the breath of a sigh, the voice became stern. There will be much suffering. I took a breath, wondering if I would make it, but somehow knowing that if I didn't take this path, I would not. On another breath, I felt it in my heart. The answer of yes emerged for a third time with a rush of love so sweet that I was unmoored from my body. I heard the lady say to me, "There will be much joy as well, daughter, and great love." Coming back into the darkened chapel, I stumbled out to the gorgeous garden and crouched amidst the flowers, watching bees and butterflies. I remembered a time 48 years before when I had also answered yes 3 times. Oh, the tears flowed freely throughout that trip. My new life was just beginning. There were so many visions during that tour, for I am a seeker of love in all that I do, and there have dwelt so many humans carrying the light inside, devoted to the ways, devoted to the earth, the whole human family, that it is imprinted on the landscape there and forever in my soul. It's in the spiral path that winds up the famous tour, a difficult climb for someone with crippling arthritis, but at the top, when a storm blew up, I danced in it, feeling the pulse and flow of the elemental energy. It's in the waters flowing through the limestone aquifer under the Mendip Hills, emerging at one point in the womb-like cave of the White Spring, where I fell again into the other world, a dark and peaceful place of stone and water. All round me, the tinkling voices of the Fae, laughing and whispering to me, "Welcome home, daughter." A place where I saw a god in the shape of a horned cow, standing upright, garlanded with flowers. I did not recognize the visage of the Egyptian goddess Hathor at the time, confusing her with Taurus. It is paradigm changing to encounter the goddess personally. It's in the granite and bluestone megaliths that were placed in sacred geometrical patterns at Stonehenge and Avebury, there to grace the land and sacred celebrants with a field of energy that opens to the heavens, to the ancestors, the divine, the other world, the land, the stone, the trees, who are descendants of those who stood upon the earth when it was young, all bearing witness, all imprinted with the lives and memories of those who walked there. Upon the West Kennet Long Barrow, sighting across the Wiltshire plain to the ancient beacon of Silbury Hill, I remembered wedding my mate, both of us dressed in animal hides and adorned with feather, bone, and tooth, facing south, linked to one another and to other minds and hearts at watchtowers all the way from the island of England to the Great Pyramids and east into the sacred mountains as well. Our mission was Earth and all who dwell here, and so it remains. All of this and more came upon me on this trip, while I learned just how powerful are the lifetimes of the soul incarnate and why we are here. Returning from England, I learned my mother was dying, complications of a broken hip, kidney failure, and a lonely life of isolation and forgetting. Before she died, through the grace of truth speaking, I called her and gave her the chance, which she took, to apologize for the first time in my long life for having abandoned me, a thing she had long forgotten. Spirit was at work as I traveled with my older brother to sort through her home near Artesia, New Mexico, where she studied ufology, astrology, Buddhism, and music, and where I discovered that little cardboard note, along with the letter of forgiveness I had sent her that Mother's Day. It all came flooding back to me then, and I began to believe in my purpose. For the rest of that year, I worked with my teacher, decoding the visions that came to me and researching ancient texts to help me make sense of what I was seeing. During a healing session, there arose in my consciousness a confusing notion as pictures, movies, and memories of a lifetime walking with the ascended master who I recall from my childhood, and many of you know him too. Experiences began to flicker into my conscious mind. I asked about this when my session with Harriet was over. How could this be? And my teacher, pausing to consult and check in with our guides, said I had been Miriam, which I found confusing. I didn't know who that meant. The images kept coming, however, as well as the presence of light beings, soul family, when I was giving Reiki sessions, opening a whole new dimension of ability and wisdom. I needed to understand, how was I accessing these memories? I researched and studied everything from the Dead Sea Scrolls to the Torah and the ancient Coptic and Gnostic texts, the Celtic and Norse gods, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Apocryphal Gospels, not least that of Mary, the works of researchers of the history of Earth, and by journeying through the light portal of the pineal gland into the Akashic records to remember my own soul's journey and to serve as a vessel for others. In 2019, I felt a strong spiritual call to return to the UK. It was both a journey into the roots of my ancestors and an angelic quest, for I'd received messages from the archangels Michael, Uriel, and Azrael asking me to undertake work on behalf of Earth and humanity. A quest which I found very puzzling, but I felt compelled. And also, some folks thought I was a little nutty. But once there, I journeyed to Dartmoor with friends, where we wandered through mists among the standing stones and ancient villages, and spent a few hours in the magical company of ponies, a legacy of Epona, another avatar of the Mother Goddess. After I returned from this trip, I would have the opportunity to work with horses for Reiki healing, and I found that I could communicate with them telepathically and help them. It's this type of attunement that is provided when you embark upon a spiritual journey in service to the divine. It's a surrendering. On our way to Tintagel on the Cornish coast, I found a passage in a book which explained to me the connection between Dartmoor and Mount Kerningley, a hill which overlooks the western Welsh coastline that my angelic guides had shown me on a map before I left America. It's called map dowsing. Didn't know that then, but I do now. And they wanted me to go there and hold ceremony. According to the author of that book, a renowned scholar called Peter Knight, there is a deep spiritual connection between the two places. This was the sign I needed to shore up my courage, for after Tintagel, we would head back. We would head back to Glastonbury, where I dropped off my friends so that I could strike out on my own towards Wales and my mission. I made my way towards Pembrokeshire, feeling a tingle up my spine as I read aloud the Welsh place names, feeling the deep pull of remembrance. The next day, I drove into the Pressley Hills and to the base of Mount Kerningly. Its settlements date back to the Bronze Age. It is known as a place where the holy people would climb to talk to angels, a place where there is a bluestone quarry at the summit, stone that one finds has traveled a long way, such as to the Salisbury Plain, to anchor the divine feminine energy within the sacred temple at Stonehenge. All over the world, stones capable of holding and conveying information and energy are moved long distances to construct sacred temples. And if you are open to the experience, you may find that they will convey information to you. 2 ponies greeted me at the parking zone at the base of Mount Kerningly, and I followed them to the trailhead. Offerings stowed in my backpack, I climbed, watching the birds and flying insects, the beautiful flowers and the clouds overhead, the deep blue sky, breathing in the pure peace. At some point, I noticed a trail of dewdrops leading me towards a large flat boulder surrounded by beautiful flowers. Looked like dewdrops, but they usually aren't there in the mid-afternoon. I think it was a fairy trail. But this stone on the screen here served as my altar for ceremony. After I finished my work, which was all spiritually guided, I slid sideways in my consciousness and fell into a deep restorative slumber. After a while, passing walkers woke me, and I rallied to brave the summit. The path took me through a gate of 2 large standing stones, and I paused in front of them, asking permission to enter. Once I passed through, I felt the presence of Yasua, my guide, and I had turned to allow him to lead the way. At this, he motioned for me to go ahead and said, "We have come to an age when the leadership of unconditional love, expressed through the feminine, must arise within me and many others now present upon earth." And he said, "I am here with you and everyone, but I am not incarnate. Aho, the age of Christ consciousness arises now within every one of us." Feeling uncertain, I walked up to the level of the huge monoliths at the summit and gazed across the mystical landscape, noting faraway peaks and the lowering angle of the sun. It was unsettling, but somehow familiar, this instruction from Yasua. And I felt that I must surrender and trust to the mission before me. I sat at that summit for a long time, just breathing and feeling the truth and the aching aloneness. When I went to return, I had no sense of where I was, which way to go, where I parked, if I could make it down the path before darkness fell, and I stumbled around. I was way off path, just completely disoriented. And then all of a sudden, this pony appeared like magic and led me down patiently to the path down on the side where I could see my car, looking back over her shoulder at me. She eventually disappeared around the spiral path, and I felt my heart swell in gratitude to my friend Epona. In the old sacred places, in the realms of angels and masters and divine beings, there is no separation. And once we open our hearts, we are adopted into the family of light, which in truth is the all beingness. My mission complete, I set my face towards the west and set out along the way of light. Back in America, I found a tour for June 2020 to Sacred Scotland. But in spring, as we all know, the world shut down and the tour was canceled. As consolation, I was offered a chance to go to Egypt with the same leader. Same leader was going to be on the Scotland tour, Freddie Silva. So I left Washington, D.C. in early September 2020, and a day later found myself in a car, tears pouring down my face as we crossed over the Nile to the Giza Plateau. I could feel the power of the river, of the pyramids, and the sand of the desert thrumming in my body. I was home in a way that I had never remembered being for on this planet. There was no moment in Egypt when I did not feel in every part of me the presence and force of my soul and the working of the light inside me, opening my consciousness, my memories, my love. Before the trip, I had dreams and visions of a temple where I lived and worked and learned, and was presented from a high rooftop as the elemental woman. I was, of course, in search of this place amongst the 9 Nile temples that we were visiting. But it wasn't until I walked into the temple complex of Hathor at Dendara that I experienced a sensation so strange of time telescoping toward me, my hair standing over my scalp, my auric body growing, as though I felt huge approaching this great hypostyle hall. In this hall, built in Greek times, overlays deep chambers of initiation, chapels, all kinds of things, and probably more that has yet to be excavated. When I was looking around, looking at the way that it looks now, I could see, like an overlayment, the way that it used to look a long time ago. I could remember plants, water, priestesses everywhere. And here came the tears again. I call them the truth tears, my personal emblem. It's like you can't contain all of that knowingness in your body. And so your body emotes to express the workings of the energy within. Two to 5,000 years worth of sacred carvings and art and pigments here for us to rediscover today. Descending underground into the initiation chamber, I remember practices of being enclosed completely there in darkness until one had deciphered the meaning of the reliefs and was able to recite the mysteries completely. I fell into an interdimensional state, part Melissa, part the priestess, my indwelling guide, who was sharing her memories with me. I surrendered to it and walked in her steps. Leaving the chamber, I climbed to a chapel where in the cool shade above ground, a temple priest held my face gently in his hands, thumb working to clear my third eye. And then he led me to the sun forge, which I remembered, to receive the full light of Ra upon my face. In a state of profound awe, I observed the sunbeams in new form and structure, a visible encodement of sacred grace, warming and attuning this new priestess after her sojourn in the dark. Following a brief respite in a chapel where I consumed the memory of temple food and drink, honey, fruit, water of hibiscus, my inner guidance was to ascend to the staircase to the first turning, to sing a mantra, and wait. And so I did, until a temple priest came and asked me if I was ready, taking me by the hand up the next 2 flights of stairs to the roof with my ascent. We walked across to a small room, on the ceiling of which is painted a carving of the zodiacal stars, symbols in relief upon all the walls. That priest, with great authority and respect, led me to stand over a grate in the floor, lift my face to the light streaming through a hole in the roof, and open my mouth to receive the sun. I stood thus for several minutes, breathing in tandem with him, his hand lightly upon the small of my back, steadying me. After a time, he led me to the back wall and bid me press my belly against a symbol there and breathe, drawing energy up my body in the way that supports the actions of the womb that accompany birth. My brain seemed to explode, and it came to me, this is the training of the sacred birth rituals of those priestesses who would devote themselves both to midwifery and to bringing forth the children of the light, the star children, the holy ones. The priest and I bowed to one another at the end of all of this, our souls smiling through upturned lips, tears as ever flowing freely from my eyes. I walked over to the wall hemming in this high roof and looked out over the ruins of the temple city where I had once stood and been made indeed an elemental woman, priestess of Hathor. I had remembered. Myriam was wide awake inside me, holding me with infinite love. Egypt was followed by an intense period of receiving more fully the remembrance of Myriam. And it was her lifetime as priestess and wife to Yahshua, my ascended master, my lifetime friend, who is known as Jesus Christ. What had started as a glimpse of memory that intensified my relationship with him as a guide unfolded within my consciousness as a past life remembrance. Many people receive Myriam or Mary Magdalene in this way, and she teaches for us not to follow her or walk with her, but to walk as her. And she was educated in many ways, but certainly among them within the Nile temples. And this is 2020. And look how my countenance has changed. This is no suffering soul. I am grateful. I no longer felt alone I was both a woman being taught by an ascended master and holding the remembrance of priestess, healer, and divine beloved companion. All of this came from surrender, and through some miracle of my DNA being able to hold these frequencies, as I believe is the case for many humans walking the earth today. Aho, the age of Christ consciousness, calling to all souls. For many old souls, for many who have ventured to the other side through a near-death experience or really any spiritually transformative experience, the sacred purpose has been to seed the children of light into this dimension, into matter, through the alchemy of starfire, the portal of the womb, and above all, love, and to waken us all to an understanding of our divine truths. Look around you now and feel with your hearts into this beautiful space in the ether that we're all within right now. So many like-minded souls. Really look with the eyes of your heart. Look with your inward facing eyes into your own soul, into your own heart. Each of you is a light bearer. Each of you is a part of the human family, and Earth is our home. Everywhere your soul has walked in any lifetime will call to you, bless and grace you, and be refreshed and reawakened in turn by your love and remembrance. And so, beloveds, journey, remember who you are, and follow your heart. My remembrance of Myriam is currently being crafted into a book as part of my divine service. I've been channeling, studying, healing, teaching, writing, and traveling as a pilgrim in devotion. The information I receive feels so profound and relevant to the needs of our planet now and all who dwell here. And I hope it serves to illuminate answers to many questions that consume seekers. When I've completed my writing and publishing the Song of Myriam, I will proceed on this journey on my way of light in complete surrender to what's next. And I hope that, what I've experienced, as much time as came between when I was 7 and 54, it was always unfolding, even when I didn't know. And I hope that that gives everybody here, whether they've had an NDE or not, I hope it affirms your path and your synchronicities and your experiences and gives you some, feeling of support and courage and to keep going, because it unfolds as it unfolds, and each of us is really called when we are needed. And it might be when you're 10, and it might be when you're 75. It doesn't matter. Just keep your ears open and your eyes open. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help any of you, it would be my honor to do so. So these pictures I'm sharing now are taken from recordings made by my teacher, who would help to prompt me and keep me grounded during many of my sessions when I was channeling and receiving remembrance of Myriam. And these pictures are all from pilgrimages I made to meet her where she walked. Sedona, not so much, all the way on the right there. That was just me sinking into the sweet energy that we have in that beautiful place out west in Arizona. There's a lot of divine mother energy there. And yeah, I'm very shy, but even me, I was able to be there and sing out loud just for the sheer feelings of love in my heart. And then you see me at the Basilica of Saint Mary Magdalene in the olive grove outside that place in Saint Baum, Saint Maximine, Saint Baum, and then in the middle in Lyon, where there is a very small oak tree. Um, in Lyon, there is a ruins of the Roman amphitheater, and that amphitheater was placed by the Romans um, after they had burnt down the sacred grove, the sacred oak grove of the holy people of the Gaulish Celts, the Druid people. Uh, and that was one of the other places I was kind of pulled to and shown, please walk here, please bear witness. And it was incredibly moving to do so, to walk in her footsteps, and many other such places that I have traveled. This is in her cave, up on the mountainside. This hearth wasn't there when she was, but the vases there are very similar to the kinds of Greek amphorae that she would have been familiar with, and she certainly was part of that cave, was in there, was a place of retreat and connection for her. And this is the view from that cave looking out over the south of France countryside in the foothills of the Alps de Provence. Absolutely beautiful. My dear friend, who was traveling with me, snapped this picture of me when I didn't know, and it was very interesting the way that beam of light fell upon my crown chakra. Certainly was wide open and receiving the grace of Miriam, the beloved. She remains my chief indwelling guide among many, because she is connected to the brother and sisterhood of the light, and has quite a story to share, as has been happening now for many, many years, probably decades, through many, many channels. And I feel really honored to be receiving some things um, that maybe haven't been told before for her. So as I complete this talk, I want to just ask you to close your eyes again for a minute and take another deep but soft and warming breath. And I want you to feel in your heart, your anchor as a divinely ensouled human on planet Earth. You are anchored to the heart of Gaia. Gaia is the soul of Earth, and she provides all the abundance needed by your divinely designed body. Do you know how many millennia preceded the perfect design of a vessel that could hold the essence of a soul in this density? Miriam asks us, all beloveds, please remember that you were designed and created explicitly for joy. And the Christ consciousness is available for you to choose to walk within. Open your heart, your throat, your third eye, your crown. Breathe in slowly. Feel the life force within you. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Notice the beautiful waves of light that come to you. The grace of unconditional love and compassion. This is your birthright. the antidote to the shadows of modernity and the pain of existence in an imperfect world is a cessation of forgetting and opening, you opening to your highest expression, to live in harmony with each other and the planet. You must find your way with love and the miraculous you-ness which is required to weave a whole fabric, to create in this dimension, along with all others, at every level of community and connection for all peoples, lands, seas, flora, and fauna. In this way, you will ensure that all of creation is cared for, loved, and held sacred. Breathe in love. Breathe out shadow, knowing that through your loving intention, all that no longer serves you, all that no longer serves this world that we share, is transmuted to the light. Breathe. And so it is. Blessed be. Much love to all of you. I am so grateful to have this time with you. I can feel your beautiful hearts, and I would look forward to your questions and to see your beautiful faces. On the screen here are some things that I have coming up. So if you want to take a quick screenshot or anything, if you're interested in continuing to, deepen in or get some perspective on your way, this is a big part of the work that I'm called to do. Is I am a healer. Everything I do is in service to healing planet Earth and all who dwell here. This is my devotional work. And so it is, I'm just the vessel, a grateful one at that. But if you're interested in learning more through me, or just checking it out, or just asking me questions, this gives you that information on what's coming up in the next, month about, and much more to follow. And this is my contact information. Easy to find, easy to get in touch with. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so over to you, Angie.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely beautiful. You have such a soothing voice. It's very, very comforting. But also your choice of words in telling your experience is very poetic and very kind of lyrical. So it's actually very beautiful. It's almost like listening to some poetry as you're telling of your experience. So thank you for all of that. I would encourage everybody to ask questions. This is a unique opportunity to ask Melissa whatever is on your mind. Again, you could raise your hand and ask it in real time, or you could write your question in the chat. I do actually have some questions for you myself while we could get started. So you said that you had a near-death experience around the age of 7. And I think you actually said that you're not sure if you were intentionally suffocated or you actually buried yourself in order to hide from a very ugly experience.
Right. So, I was a little girl, and I think it's pretty clear from what I said, but I didn't want to, bring folks too much into that energy. But it was very evil, very demonic energy had come into the home and into my father, and you know, my sister bore the greatest wound there, my oldest sister. But I remember waking up. I don't remember how I got from the bathroom. Throwing up was the last thing I remember. And then the next thing I remember consciously was I'm, wedged between my bed and the wall, where the windows were. And all my, I had so many stuffed animals. I had, if anybody else was born in the 60s, I had like a 3 foot tall Winnie the Pooh and all these little, babies, and I would have tea parties with them and whatnot. And, they wouldn't never even all fit on my bed, and certainly weren't between my bed and the window. And all I know is I woke up and I was clawing my way out.
Mm.
Uh, you know, and the sun is all the way up and it's coming through the window. And I was like, whoa, reeling, what happened? And I'm covered with vomit and I'm sobbing my guts out. And all I want is to go back to what place I could remember. And that I did sit there for some time remembering the other side and feeling love. And I wanted desperately to go back.
Yeah,
I'm sure many people share that. And
yeah. It
uh,
it sounds as though you were. Am I right? Speaking to Jesus, was it
yeah,
Jesus that you were with as
yeah,
a small child with other? I mean, you showed a very beautiful
yeah,
picture of other children, and it was very, very comforting. He also asked you to if you would help him, but you didn't have to go back. That was entirely up to you. So let me ask you. That's obviously a very religious-based NDE. Not everybody has those. As small as you were, around the age of 7, were you actually religious and spiritual? Was Christianity part of
yeah,
your life
great.
at home and
Yeah,
parents?
yeah. So I'll just preface this by saying at this point, I find myself identifying as pan spiritual. I actually just coined that term last weekend during a Reiki class that I was teaching. Both of my students happened to be following a Buddhist path at this time, and I've learned that all these ways weave together. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I was raised in the Episcopal Church, very small church in Youngstown, New York. um, and they were, this is the 60s. um, it's there's youth ministries and all kinds of things. In fact, the pastor of that church was hugely impacted by the events that occurred amongst my family, and was helpful to my mother and me and my sisters during what was the worst time of my life. But I contacted him. He had left the ministry as a result of the evil that was encountered, and the ensuing court cases and whatnot. And he became a Jungian psychotherapist and had put it all behind him. But I wrote him a letter that he couldn't walk away from, and he called me. Uh, my son had just been born, so at the time I was about 37, and he confirmed my memories, and he said, I knew that all that a portal to hell had opened up and swallowed your family. And he took us in the middle of the night in his car, and he drove and he drove and he drove because we were terrified for our lives. And he drove us to stay at the home of the mother of the Episcopalian canon in that area.
So he essentially rescued you and your family, and there was an older sister, a younger sister, and a brother, as well as your mother.
So
Is
my
that
brother
correct?
had left. My oldest brother. My mother had been married before. I had my oldest brother and oldest sister from a different father.
Yes.
My oldest brother had left the home and went into the military, and it was my mother and my oldest sister And then myself and I was the youngest, and my middle sister, um, we had the same father. So our father, who was stepfather to uh, my older brother and sister, was the one who had this demonic attachment, I would say. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So, um,
Okay. And then it sounds as though soon after this all came to light, that the family farm was sold, your life changed complete. I mean, it continued to change. Not only did this come to light, but it sounds as though you lost your home, um, and other things
the
happened.
famous,
Is that correct?
yeah, it was a famous case. My best friend um, begged and wouldn't stop crying for days until her parents brought her over to see me and say goodbye. And I didn't know. I was, if anybody's ever had a traumatic experience like that in their childhood, the psyche represses. I completely repressed all these memories until around the time when I had my son. I had my son when I was 36. And my family, my older siblings, I mean, I think everybody's kind of running from what happened. Um, but they didn't talk to me about it. I think they were trying to protect me. It was very traumatic. And, back in the 60s and early 70s, people didn't understand it.
Yeah.
I know, it was just kind of sweep it under the rug. It's really hard to do when there's a conviction and the father goes to jail and there's no one to pay the mortgage on the farm. And so, my mom sold makeup to try to make enough money to feed us. So it was, yeah, big change. We lost everything.
Yeah. So obviously, I want to be very delicate, and I don't want to overstep and make you feel uncomfortable. I'm just trying to understand. I'm a psychologist, so I'm just trying to understand the situation to some extent. And
I mean, we've all spent a lifetime healing each in our own ways. My oldest sister became a born again Christian long, long ago and is very close to Yasua, although she thinks of him very differently than I do. We all share this, and um, it's just been a lifetime of recovery, each in our own distinct ways. But for us all, we needed to come away and go on our own journey, to come away from the family. And for me, there was so much repression, and it wasn't until long time had passed before I really was fully conscious to what was going on, and you know, did a lot of reading, read a lot of Carl Jung, a lot of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, a lot of self help and things, and I'm just grateful that I was able to find the information and learning that I needed, and the teachers, and that indwelling guide, Miriam, um, and she is so present with me all the time now.
I
But
do want to ask you about Miriam too. But before I do that, so your dad went to jail, and that your mom had to sort of fend for herself, and the family farm was dissolved, etc. You've read a lot about the psyche and the human heart and why we behave the way we do. But you also said there was evil. It made it sound as though there was a sort of an additional element of something very sinister, some sort of evil, demonic force coming into the home. One thing is for somebody to be abusive because of perhaps being at the receiving end of their own abuse as a child and perpetuating the trauma. But another thing is to have an additional kind of dark entity come into the mix and make it even more sinister. I'm trying to understand, was it an element of both, or was it an either or?
so, I served the Department of Veterans Affairs for 25 years, and I know that sounds like I'm way off base, but there are many ways that evil energy enters into the human family. And one of these ways is through war.
Uh,
through blood magic. My grandfather served as a colonel in the United States Army during World War II, and we all know what horrible atrocities were wreaked upon humanity and planet Earth during that terrible war. And when the men would come back from these wars in their service to save all of us from succumbing into that evil and being overtaken at a planetary level, they didn't get a whole lot of help. And so they came home with a war inside and they acted out on their families. And so this is to me what it means when they say the sins of the father are visited upon the sons. And, that should be the mothers and the daughters too. Um, when we pass along our wounds um, to our family and don't receive the healing that's required, then this is how it stays and becomes an ancestral wound.
mm,
So it's been an honor to serve veterans for 25 years in my career. This is part of my journey, even
mm,
when I was unconscious to it. And during that work, I was angelically inspired. I would come up with solutions. I had no background or schooling to do.
mm,
So for me, in that the blessing of the NDE was that whether my father chased me down the hall and buried me, trying to suffocate me, hoping I'd never wake up again, that has been told to me by psychics, or if I just tried to hide from it, rejecting. My soul rejected that. My soul rejected that evil. I was a child. I knew instinctively what I was seeing, and I could see it. There was a demonic being um, within the shell of my father's body, and I could see it. But on the other side, what a gift!
yeah.
What a gift to be taken to that place of love and given a choice. And my guides have taught me that divine law is very simple. It's love, truth, and free will. And all other things flow from that really from those three things. And Yasua told me that we need not obey any law that does not stem from love. And those are the three incontrovertible divine laws. And so if law does not respect those, we need not abide by it, which I think is a
Right.
very timely
I
message,
was
right?
going to say, you just took the words out of my mouth, obviously, very timely. Your sister also suffered from this. You were the middle child, and your younger sister at the hands of your dad.
I
All
was the
three of you?
youngest.
Oh, I'm
I
so
was,
sorry. I keep getting that mixed up. All
that's
three of you. All three of you. Okay.
yeah.
Was your mother on the receiving end of that as well?
My mother, my mother was very, she was gifted and she was psychic, and she was living in a time where you were just labeled crazy. She was labeled crazy, and she was ostracized. Um, she did not protect us. Um, she was another victim of all of this, in my view.
As well.
And so, what's sort of important about what I've shared here today is that I went. It wasn't until I got my Reiki healing that I was able to forgive, that I was able to detach from
Yeah.
both of my parents spiritually and reject the energy of my father and surrender his his soul or any need to find uh, people with similar wounds and fix them. This is very much what happens to a lot of people who are receive these kinds of wounds as children. You're always seeking to it's a psychological thing, right? Where you're seeking the same sort of activity as a as you saw in your nuclear family, because you know how to survive. It's instinctive. And then you try to fix, and that doesn't really work because first you have to heal yourself. But I hope I answered your question. But yeah, there was a lot of other stuff. There was a lot of other incidents. It's just that was the one that brought the NDE. And yeah, it takes a long time to dig yourself out from that. But I did, and I'm
What
grateful.
happened? What happened to your father? Is he
My
still alive?
No, my father succumbed to diabetes complications in May of 2001. I had just joined federal service that January, and I had visions when he passed. I loved my father. My father was a very tormented and complicated soul who had received his own wounds. And may he, he is in a place where he's receiving the lessons and the healing that he requires. So part of my work as a healer, of course, is to heal my ancestors, to heal my bloodlines, to heal my DNA. And I see it working. I see my children both being healers in their own way, and I see the results of doing this healing, and the energy of Reiki coming through to save me and to enable all of this.
So it sounds as though your dad didn't necessarily get the help that he needed while he was still here. Is that
No,
correct?
no, he didn't, and in fact, he was at the time that he was passed when I was working with my teacher, and I knew that I had to release the father wound. And during that session, essentially his attachment to me was pulled out, and in my vision, two powers angels, which are kind of like the jailers of heaven, were holding him back from me. And I said, why did you do those things to us? And he would not look at me. He felt such shame. I knew that he was feeling shame, but he would never say he was sorry. And so at this point, I'm able to forgive him. I mean, that was in 19 or 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016. So really soon after my Reiki healing began, like within 6 months, I was ready to deal with this. Miraculous to me. And yet at that time, I was told that I had to say goodbye forever because he needed to go someplace where I could not have any spiritual or any kind of communication with him. Conversely, my mother, who I thought I would never forgive because she abandoned me and all of us, 6 months later, I was writing a letter of forgiveness to her.
Mm.
And so she was able to receive that. And even though she had dementia when we spoke on the phone that summer, um, as soon as I got home from that spiritual pilgrimage to Glastonbury, I called her, and she had fallen and broken her hip and was in extremis physically. And I spoke truth to her. It was like my throat chakra just opened up, and I told her some hard truths, and she became very lucid. And she said, I forgot that you were only 10 when I left you. I'm so sorry. And I went,
Yeah.
and I knew that she truly was sorry. And so I was able to forgive her. It was beautiful.
Both your parents have passed. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you? You said something quite fascinating just now about I had to let go of my dad because he had to go to a place where I couldn't sort of reach him spiritually anymore.
Mhm.
What
So
could you
there,
elaborate on
there,
that?
so there are many heavens, there are many realms, many dimensions of reality. There are some realms I will not attach to because they're very dark. There are realms that are beyond my understanding. There are many realms, and even if you look at science now, they've identified something like 13 and defined something like 13 dimensions. So some of that is part of Reiki Master teaching. So I have a really good understanding as far as it's available um, at this time. But there are realms where humans don't deal with. So, for example, sometimes if I'm performing a spirit cleansing, essentially an exorcism of a place or a person, it's among my, uh, skills. I'm dealing with the human soul. I'm not dealing with demonic evil energy. Now, that is for those in spirit. That is for those who are not embodied to handle. And so, what happens in such cases that I can do now, but I didn't understand at the time my teacher was healing me, is to work with the human that the demonic spirit attaches to and heal that soul. And when I pull that dark energy out of the human soul, I've got Yasua or Miriam or both or an archangel, like whoever is required to wrap around that energy with their light beingness and take it where it needs to go through the dimensional gates to transmute it, which, by the way, is essentially what Yahshua or Jesus did. Okay, he was such a being of light embodied that at the time when his soul left his body, he was able to take so much and transmute so much dark energy that was present on earth and just get it out of here, if that makes sense. So, this is another way of looking at he died for our sins. It, it's more wondrous and mysterious than people can possibly imagine unless they've kind of had access to the kind of mystical information which I've been given the profound grace to have been able to see. And so I think that's kind of what happened with my dad.
Um, all of a sudden, it's Paddington Station here. I'm so sorry about the interruption.
Okay,
Just
that's
to
okay. I
speak
get
for them.
going.
Absolutely. So I have heard about realms where demons may dwell that are very, very dark. But it sounded as though your dad is somewhere that you're not comfortable going to. Is that correct?
I,
He's
he had to go where they were going to take him for him to get what he needed to learn.
okay.
That's
Okay.
not a place where I work. I only work with the angelic realms, the realms of light. Um, and that is because that gives me that energy coming through, gives me what I need to be able to work here. The third dimension, the third density where we are on Earth is very heavy. It vibrates very, very slowly, which enables us to see things as though this is solid, right? It's not really. Everything's constantly in motion. In the angelic realm, the frequency is very high and it's very fast. And we can bring it into our bodies in order to work as healers of anything if we're properly trained and attuned. But we're not really designed to hold that frequency all the time. And if you think about the frequency that's required to come into the third dimension and actually take a dark entity, and I'm not going to describe it because I don't want to bring that energy here. But I think just from my talk and from things I'm sure everyone on here has suffered from, we can see that that stuff incites primarily fear. It is realms of fear, and everything that begets from fear is evil. Fear is the opposite of love. Okay, so I don't attach to that. I am grateful to the light beings, and the creator, which is the source of all unconditional love, for handling that for me, because I don't want to bring it into this body, right? Because this body isn't designed to encompass that. And that's why it takes over. It's a choice. I said yes to the light. Sometimes people are seduced by tricksters and beings that are in the astral plane, and they get tricked into uh, agreeing to things, because their ego is, um, because they don't have the right teaching, or because their ego is malinformed, or they're playing with things that they don't understand. And that's why, that's some of the work I do, is to help people that have fallen into that. But those things have no power here unless someone chooses to work with them.
Thank you so much. We do have a question from Bridget. She says, Melissa, thank you for sharing your story. So powerful. And you told it with such love and beauty. I was wondering how you can speak to how Reiki was the medium that opened up your path to being a healer so clearly.
Ah, so that's a great question. I had such terrible arthritis that before I received healing, I could not get up my stairs. You might see the stairway going up to crawl into bed. I could barely walk. I mean, I could, but it was excruciatingly painful. And I, don't take pain medications. So I tried a lot of things. And many of them were very, very good for quite some time, until they weren't. It wasn't enough. The pain I was experiencing was more than just physical. It was spiritual, it was emotional, it was psychological. I saw therapists, I did self-help, I had physical therapy, I had acupuncture, I had holistic medicine, I tried everything. But it was, working through the physical body with a massage therapist that I was working with, two of them, right, who just happened to be Reiki masters. Well, I had never even heard of it in this life at that point. But that's when I was like, hey, and I knew what it was because I recognized it, because it was that same feeling that I had when I was 7 years old and in all this trauma, and went to the other side and met, I had been raised as an Episcopalian. We went to church. I was in the choir, right? So, yeah, that was the way I saw the being of light on the other side, was based on, and this, by the way, is very much the way the spirit works within us. When I channel, I feel it coming in. I actually literally can feel, because it really comes in through the pineal gland and works with kind of the right side of your brain, the intuitive side, the creative side, the artistic side. But then I could feel the energy coming over to my left brain and going, oh, what words does she have? What schema does she have? What's her understanding that we can use to show her what we're trying to say? And so this is why each person's journey and is unique. And this is why it's the pathless path. And the way is the ways. Because each of us has our own, this life, and if we are fortunate enough to have past life memories, each soul is unique and has its own way of apprehending it downloads the information that comes, you know, through the beings who serve, but comes from the creator of us all.
Thank you. Savannah has a question. Savannah, we're going to unmute you if you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, Melissa. Can you hear me, see me?
Yes. Yeah.
I've never heard it explained that way, coming in through the right and then coming over to the left, and part of your brain, and just sort of seeing what your resources, I'm going to use the word resources, are for your path. And having watched, or I mean, I know you, so I've watched your journey. And hearing you share it this way and seeing those photos, the question I'm trying to get to is, how did you trust so knowingly each step, to know to take that pilgrimage, to know to go to here, to channel, and I guess, how did you see your winks of where your skills were showing up, and what would you share with others to find their way of expressing this energy and love and healing? I hope that
So
comes clear.
that's a great question. And there are a couple of answers. So one of them is, I believe that I made the agreement to do so when I said yes 3 times to Yasua. And so this soul agreement, and a lot of people say soul contract, but contract, and people try to say, oh, well, you can't get out of it. You agreed to this. This is why you're suffering. Maybe, but careful how you speak about it. When you make a soul agreement, it's your free will, and your free will is always there. It is divine law. You could change your mind anytime. I get told that all the time. Still want to do this? I'm like, oh, yes. Why? Because it's the most beautiful thing I've ever done besides my 2 children. And it's like on a par with them. Other than being allowed to be their mom and watching them grow, this is a glorious path full of so much love. Why would I ever choose not to continue? But doubt and insecurity, so much insecurity, lessons of ego and overcoming and just growing in it. Yeah, not always easy, not always beautiful. Some of the, driving around the mountains in Wales on the wrong side of the road was terrifying. There was a lot of things I did that were terrifying, but I did it in service, and trusted I decided to trust, and I could feel the truth of it in my heart. And, you know, in my talk, I talked about the call. The call is a clarion call. The call is the spiritual and magnificent and enormous shofar of the Archangel Gabriel, who sounds the shofar, the trumpet. It makes the clarion call to open the interdimensional gates all the way from here to galactic center, to source. I have seen it in visions. I have heard it. I have felt it. And it is so much grace, so powerful, that clarion call, and you feel compelled, but not against your will. You feel compelled by love. And that is all I can tell you. And you must trust. It helps to have, I have the most beautiful teacher who has helped me to rebirth myself, to help and encourage me on this path. And, you know, Miriam's footsteps and my earthly teacher's footsteps as well.
That's a beautiful segue to Miriam, because I'm dying to ask you about Miriam. So, am I understanding correctly that Miriam is Mary Magdalene, and that's the Mary Magdalene of Jesus? Okay.
Yes and no. So my information, and I'm not alone in this information, is that Yasua had several wives. This would have been completely normal custom for Hebrew people and holy people 2,000 years ago, according to Judaic law. I was raised as a Christian, and some of the information I received, I was like, no way. Very explicit, specific information about their interactions. Consulted with a rabbi and was told, you absolutely are stating this according to Judaic law at that time. It continues, and it is recorded. So, as a very important ordained priest of the Essene sect of Judaism, as a prophesied being who came here with a special mission for planet Earth. He was expected to participate in a priesthood that would partly be a call to be married, to have children, to propagate the light through the human family. This may be controversial for some, and I just ask you to be open-minded and follow up with me if this troubles you. I'm sorry. But the family of light has been here since before the beginning of time. And it's not just that family, but we all belong to the light. And it is part of the mission to seed the light into humanity. So Yasua had Myriam, and some other wives, and she had great tragedy befall her in her life, and at one point was enslaved. She was not treated well. She lost her womb. She suffered and almost lost her life, and she could no longer beget children. And so after that, Yasua sent to her an emissary from where he was in Indo-Parthia at the time, and sent an emissary to her and petitioned her for divorce with a very loving way. It was to free her to step fully into her mission and to enable him to remarry and have more children. They had to. So all that's in the book. But yes, so I believe that my understanding is that the story of these people goes far, far beyond what's in the canonical Bibles. Some of it is in the Apocrypha, and it's coming through all the time through uh, storytellers and those of us who've been inspired. God is still talking, and we are the creators in this dimension. And so we are still being whispered the story in our hearts, and trying and striving to bring it here through writing and sharing. It's a devotional work. And anyway, I think that when people talk about Mary Magdalene, and I talk to lots of people who channel Mary Magdalene, scholars who research Mary Magdalene, and we all get along great. All of us know that. Many of us know that there were many wives. I had someone say to me in a Rose Priestess group that I belong to, "Oh, yeah, Miriam of Tiana, that's the one he divorced." So it kind of makes me laugh, because, um, yeah, he did. But it's not like because she was a jerk. It was because they were here for a reason. And in order to fulfill their purpose, that was required. And I hope this resonates with folks. Sometimes service requires us to walk away from very close relationships, be they friendships, causes us to walk away from careers, marriages, places we've loved, all kinds of things. So it shouldn't surprise us. It should comfort us to know that this has always been so.
I have a question regarding your past life as a priestess. Did I understand that correctly in your presentation in Egypt?
Yeah.
Was that
So,
you? Um,
well, um, yeah, sort of. So it gets complicated. So I had an ego journey from starting to get these memories of Mary Magdalene. That's how I understood her. And then it took me a long time to just kind of, because I was like, nah, this, because it feels like my memory. I mean, when I'm receiving it, I'm not like over here looking at me. I'm in me, looking at my hands, my dress, my feet, people around me. I mean, they didn't really have mirrors back then. And it really does something to you. And a lot of people kind of get stuck there. But I knew instinctively that I didn't really understand it. And so I didn't come out and go, oh, reincarnation of Mary Magdalene. I knew somehow that was an understanding that I would grow beyond. And I did. And so what I kind of understand is that as a human, as a soul, before you incarnate, you have a design and a specific purpose that you want to fulfill. And so when you come in with all the gifts from all of your lives. You come in with your linkages in the oneness to everyone, all beings. You come in with friends, memories, all of that. And you choose a family that has DNA that can carry your frequency. I'm saying this very shortly, but sometimes that family isn't such a wonderful place. Why are we born into such sorrow? Why are we born into such troubled times? It's so that we can fulfill our purpose, and we have to take the difficulty with the good. So I believe that some of us, because of our frequency, our work in past lives, we are able to receive these, if I think of Miriam or Yasuo or any ascended master as an oversoul, that if the creator, God, source is everything and the first thing, then each of us is an emanation or an outbreath of the creator. The Maya call that how, the breath of light. And each soul group that is born from each outbreath of the creator then becomes a creator. And so in my lineage is Miriam. And so, yes, I am an embodiment, an avatar of her, but I also feel Yasuo within and many others because we're a family. We're a family of light. And I think, sometimes I see the soul families of everyone as like a circle, and all of these circles overlap. It's like, it's a lynx or a chainmail, or sometimes I see it as a great weave of light. So, what that memory was Miriam, that memory was Melissa, and I've come to see that when I was on the other side, Miriam fused with Melissa, this wounded child, and walked back here with me and has stayed with me all my life. So when I'm channeling her, I'm barely aware. I'm about maybe 15% Melissa, which gives me the ability to speak and receive and remember. And I'm about 85% Miriam. When I'm right now, it's more like, because she's very present with me while I talk and to answer these questions, but I'm probably more like 35% Melissa or maybe 50. And Melissa's an important person. Melissa is a soul, is a sovereign, sacred soul, as are all of us. And Melissa chose to come back and learn. And so Miriam is like always teaching me and through me.
We're actually out of time. The time has gone by very fast. Do you have what final words would you like to leave the audience with today?
Just that I'm like so honored to just be able to give this to all of you. Thank you so much. It's everything to me to be able to just give the message. And I'd love to hear from you. I love your questions, your feedback, your comments, just to know who you are, to listen to your stories, and to make some new friends. Maybe we'll see each other again in one of these meetings or at the upcoming IANS meeting. So please reach out to me if you like. And yeah, much love to all of you. And yeah, please be inspired and believe. It's really important now more than ever.
Lots of thank yous in the chat from everyone. Well, thank you so much. It's been a fascinating journey. I do really appreciate your time. And thank you, everybody who's joined us this afternoon. And everybody who's anywhere near the snow, please stay warm. And thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa, for your
And
time.
thank you. Thank you, Angie. You're such a beautiful, gracious host. I'm so grateful. And Mike, too, in the background there, who's making us all look good.
Yeah.
This
And,
video. All
carry,
right.
carry on
Take
with the
care.
good work. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone. See
Bye,
you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.